future of Boeing's 737 MAX 8 plane is in question this morning after an Ethiopian Airlines flight crashed outside of Ethiopia's capital yesterday, killing all 157 people on board. It is the second disaster involving the jet in 6 months after a Lion Air crash in Indonesia killed 189 people in October. The 737 MAX 8 is Boeing's best-selling model. Since its introduction in 2017, 378 planes have been delivered. 5,526 more are currently on order. China, Indonesia, and Cayman Islands were quick to ground all of their MAX 8 jets following this latest crash, and the stock is being punished in the pre-market, down 9.5%. That could translate into a 200-point drop for the Dow when trading begins in less than 30 minutes from now. That's because of Boeing's outsized influence over the Dow. Joining me now on the phone is Peter Greenberg. He is the travel editor for CBS. And Peter, thanks so much for being with us this morning. I know that you've been talking to pilots and experts since yesterday's crash. What are you hearing?
Well, let's go back to the Lion Air crash to begin with. When that happened, it was revealed that Boeing had a problem with the electronics on that plane, with a system that controls the pitch, which means the up and down movements of the plane's nose, designed to basically save a stall. They hadn't necessarily communicated that properly to the airlines or to the federal regulatory agencies like the FAA. And as a result, the pilots were very angry because they hadn't been told. Remember, pilots earn their money when they fly the plane. And this is a system designed to correct what it perceives as a possible stall. And when you have a possible stall, it means that the plane's nose, if the system works, is pointed downward. You need to get your airspeed picked up right away. But what happens if you're not in a stall and the system activates anyway? That's what we think happened in the Lion Air crash. It's still too soon to tell what happened with Ethiopian, but the similarities right now are quite remarkable in terms of when it happened during the flight and at the altitude that it happened, and the pilot's inability to control the plane.
What should the flying public think here, Peter? I mean, you've got China, Indonesia, and the Cayman Islands all saying, you know what, we don't trust it. We're grounding these planes.
Well, you know, historically, the FAA in this country has a number of tools in their arsenal to counteract this. It's called an airworthiness directive, but it has different formats. One is called the service bulletin, which is the weakest form, which is basically saying, you know what, bring the plane in when you can for service and take a look at it. The second one is called a modified airworthiness directive, saying we've established the problem, we've established the fix, and you have so many days in which to fix it or you can't fly the plane. And the harshest airworthiness directive is the one that says we have a problem, it needs an immediate fix, and no one can fly this plane until it's fixed. We've only had that happen a very few times in the history of aviation. It was the Comet in the late 50s. It was the DC-10 after the crash of American Airlines Flight 191 in 1979. It was limited to the Boeing 787 after they had the battery fire in Boston. And right now they have not issued that kind of airworthiness directive. Although, in the meantime, a number of airlines, as you just reported, are not waiting for that directive. They're taking the preemptive act of grounding their planes until they find out what happened.
And what about the black box? I understand that has been found. I'd imagine that's going to be a big part of this ongoing investigation.
Well, there are actually two black boxes. One is called the CVR, which is the cockpit voice recorder, and that records all the conversations in the cockpit and also the radio transmissions from the cockpit to the ground. But in this particular case, the most crucial one to recover is the FDR, the flight data recorder that's usually carried in the tail. I think they've recovered that one, and that will give them, regardless of what was talked about in the cockpit, a second-by-second analysis of the overall performance of the plane, altitude, temperature, engine performance, speed, and that's what they're able to do back time that to figure out moment by moment what could have happened.
Peter Greenberg, travel editor at CBS News, thanks so much for joining us this morning.